Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Today we're looking at LM Funding America.
As usual, before we start, subscribe, like, and comment to this video to support the show. And if there's a specific company you want us to look into, leave it in the comments below.
So let's get into the analysis. I think for you, the most important context here on LM Funding America is its radical transformation.
It's a completely different company now.
Exactly. The whole story, the entire narrative, has been shaped by this massive pivot to become a Bitcoin-focused infrastructure company. And this all really happened, it solidified during the third quarter of 2025.
Right. And this wasn't some slow drift. It was a very sudden foundational shift away from their old business model.
A very intentional shift.
Yeah.
And the speed of that pivot is really remarkable. You just don't change your whole corporate identity overnight, especially not in a sector like Bitcoin mining that needs so much capital.
So how did they fuel that?
Well, the move was aggressively pushed forward by a major strategic capital raise that they wrapped up in August 2025. And the way they got that funding is worth looking at because it really speaks to how management is thinking. They use a combination of a registered direct offering and a private placement.
A bit more targeted than a standard offering, then.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mechanism that let them sidestep some market volatility and raise a net total of $21.3 million. Growth companies tend to like this structure when they need committed cash, and they need it fast for a very specific goal.
And that goal was pretty clear.
Crystal clear. They wanted to use that money immediately to just aggressively expand their Bitcoin treasury and their physical operations.
So the funds weren't just sitting on the balance sheet.
No, not at all. They were deployed almost instantly to buy up digital assets. This drove their total holdings way up, and maybe more importantly, it just materially strengthened their balance sheet right when they needed that extra liquidity.
And that capital infusion, you can see it translate directly into operational muscle, right?
You can. When you look at the physical expansion, the actual infrastructure part of this whole pivot, September 2025, really stands out as the turning point.
That's the Mississippi deal.
That's the one. They acquired an 11-megawatt mining site in Mississippi, and this one deal was transformative for them. It nearly doubled their overall capacity.
And brought their total contracted power up to what?
Up to a pretty substantial 26 megawatts.
Okay, so that 26 megawatt figure is kind of the new baseline for them. Can you put that number in context for us? In the mining world, is 26 megawatts a huge deal?
That's a great question. It's large enough to matter. 6 months ago, they were barely even a blip on the radar. Now, 26 megawatts puts them firmly in that mid-tier player category.
So they're in the same conversation as some of the other public miners now.
They are. To put it simply, 26 megawatts it's roughly enough power to run thousands of homes at the same time. It's a serious physical asset base. It shows they're now trying to compete on scale.
And they clearly didn't waste any time getting that new site up and running.
They did not. Even though the Mississippi acquisition was still in its, very early ramp-up stages, it still managed to generate about $92,000 in revenue by the end of the quarter.
That's pretty quick execution.
Very quick. But the most exciting part for me from the operations side, the real proof that the infrastructure is actually optimized, is the massive jump they saw in their mining margin.
Tell us about that margin improvement.
Well, the Bitcoin mining margin improved from 41.0% in the second quarter all the way up to an impressive 49.0% in the third.
Wow, that's an 8-point jump in a single quarter.
It is. And that doesn't just happen by luck,
Yeah.
This strongly suggests that the new infrastructure, probably paired with better power agreements or more efficient miners they bought with the capital, is delivering some really powerful efficiency gains.
That's operational leverage right there.
It's the definition of it. And that efficiency is what's behind the strong revenue rebound we saw. Q3 2025 came in at $2.2 million in revenue, which is a huge 74% sequential increase from Q2.
They're definitely getting momentum on the top line as these new sites come online.
They are. And it's not just growth for the sake of growth. Management has shown some pretty impressive cost discipline in their other activities, the non-mining parts of the business.
Oh, really?
Yeah, operating expenses, if you strip out the direct mining costs, were actually down 7.7% year over year in Q1 2025.
And that cost control is critical. It protects their runway. It's why, even with all the volatility and high costs of a big pivot like this, they still managed to post a positive core EBITDA.
Exactly. And for you, the listener, core EBITDA is such a key metric here. We're talking earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. The core part strips out non-cash expenses.
So it shows you the underlying health of the actual mining cash flow before you account for all the depreciation on the new equipment.
Precisely. That positive core EBITDA is the first real sign that the business model is fundamentally resilient, even if the reported bottom line profit looks bad at first glance.
Okay, speaking of things that look bad but are actually fascinating, let's talk about the balance sheet. This is the part that makes this company such a strange case. That digital asset buffer.
The Bitcoin treasury is maybe the most compelling part of this whole story. By the end of Q3, the company was holding about 304.5 Bitcoin,
Valued at what at the time?
around $34.7 million. And even more recently, at the end of October, they still had about 295 Bitcoin, valued at $32.2 million.
Okay, now here's where it gets really weird and where the market just seems off. That Bitcoin treasury, that liquid asset they're holding, is valued somewhere between $32 and $34 million.
Right?
But the company's entire market capitalization has been bouncing around between, what, $12.5 million and $17.4 million.
And that's the crucial insight. The value of their Bitcoin is significantly more than what the market says the entire company is worth.
It's a huge disconnect.
It is. And that asymmetry acts as this massive liquidity cushion. It provides what analysts call a hard floor for the company's valuation. Because in theory, the assets alone are worth more than the whole company.
That valuation gap is just stunning. But if the market cap is only, say, 17 million while they're sitting on 34 million in liquid Bitcoin, what's the big risk factor the market is seeing? Something is scaring investors away.
You've hit on the primary downside right there. It's the profitability risk. While the asset base is incredible, the trailing 12-month net loss is still significant. It's at $15.74 million.
Which translates to what in terms of margin?
A net profit margin of negative 233%. This is the cost of that pivot. It's the accumulated losses and the ramp-up costs, and it's the number one thing holding the stock price down. Investors are worried if they can actually convert those assets into sustainable profits.
So the big Bitcoin holdings are a massive strength, but also a double-edged sword. It exposes them to huge asset volatility. If Bitcoin crashes, that cushion shrinks very, very fast.
Exactly. High correlation, high reward, high risk. But it's worth pointing out that even with this aggressive expansion, their overall financial health seems pretty conservatively managed. Their debt-to-equity ratio is only 21.7%.
So they're not wildly over-leveraged?
No. They are leveraging assets, but not to a dangerous degree, which is a good sign for stability.
Okay, so moving past the balance sheet, that glaring valuation gap where the assets are worth more than the company, that has to be a clear signal to management that their stock is deeply undervalued.
It is, and it's leading them directly to shareholder-friendly actions. Management's confidence is high, and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
With the buybacks?
Exactly. They did a private share repurchase in October, which is an immediate signal from insiders that the stock is too cheap. And on top of that, they authorized a $1.5 million share buyback program.
Which is a pretty substantial amount relative to their market cap.
It's a huge vote of confidence.
So let's look at how the market is actually reacting to all this. The stock has shown some stabilization, hasn't it?
It has. It's been trading in a band between about 95 cents and $1.12, and it's holding above that key support level near 90 cents. So the technical picture is firming up.
And the indicators.
The technicals suggest a moderate bullish momentum is building. It looks like a stable accumulation pattern. But you have to remember the risk. Their beta is high at 1.85.
Right, and for our listeners, beta just measures volatility. A beta of 1.85 means the stock moves about 85% more aggressively than the overall market.
Which is pretty typical for a small-cap, crypto-related company. It means high risk, high reward.
And that high volatility is exactly why the upside projections are so staggering. Analysts see this potential for things to normalize. What are the targets looking like?
The consensus 12-month price target is pretty striking. It's $5.
$5.
$5. So depending on where the stock is today, that implies a potential upside of anywhere from 340% to over 523%.
That's massive.
It is. And that aggressive target is really based on the belief that once their operational profitability finally catches up, the market will re-rate the stock based on its actual infrastructure, the 26 megawatts, and not just its past losses.
Which brings us to the immediate drivers. What are the confirmed near-term catalysts that could actually move the stock toward those targets?
Well, the most immediate one is the upcoming Q3 2025 earnings announcement that's scheduled for November 14th. This is where investors are going to be looking for proof.
What are they looking for specifically?
They'll expect to see continued year-over-year growth in mining revenue for sure.
Hmm.
But the key metric will be sustaining those margin improvements. Can they hold that 49.0% direct mining margin? Or maybe even push it a little higher?
Right. If that margin slips, it could signal issues with the new site. But if it holds or rises, it really validates the whole pivot.
Absolutely. We're also looking for detailed updates on the full ramp-up of that Mississippi site. And then beyond the company news, you have to watch broader market events, like the ETF rebalancing review coming up in December. As big index funds adjust their crypto allocations, it can influence demand for stocks like this one.
Okay, let's switch to the more speculative stuff. The high-impact rumors that are floating around that could cause a huge move if they actually happen.
The industry chatter is really focused on two things: leverage and optimization. There are these persistent rumors that they might announce a major strategic partnership,
What kind of partnership?
probably focused on enhancing their grid access, or maybe even expanding beyond just mining into broader blockchain services or hosting. It would make perfect sense given their new infrastructure.
And what about internal actions beyond the buyback we already know about?
Well, there's speculation that the board might authorize even more buyback activity if the stock stays this low. It would be a very direct, aggressive move to try and close that valuation gap we talked about. They have the balance sheet to do it.
And finally, there's the idea of a status boost, right? Getting their name in front of a bigger audience.
Yes. There's also speculation about them pursuing an uplisting to a major index. That would drastically increase their visibility and force institutional buying. And of course, just watch for any news about a big Bitcoin holdings milestone. If they announce they've hit, say, 500 Bitcoin, that could trigger some serious institutional interest.
Okay, so let's pull all of this together. If you're an investor, how should you frame this opportunity? What are the two main ways to look at this?
Based on all the data, there are really two distinct theses here. The short-term thesis sees it as a way to capture immediate, volatile upside.
A trade, essentially.
Kind of. It's a play of the upcoming Q3 earnings, positive news from the new site, and critically, it's a way to leverage any Bitcoin market rallies because the company is so highly correlated. It's a trade on momentum and execution.
And the long-term thesis looks past all that volatility.
That one focuses entirely on structural growth. The company has built a significant physical infrastructure base with 26 megawatts of power. That infrastructure, plus their strategy of building a huge digital asset reserve, it positions them perfectly to benefit from long-term tailwinds in the whole crypto mining space.
So they're using their balance sheet to create operational leverage for the next cycle.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
This whole analysis really paints a picture of a company right in the middle of a massive, costly transformation.
It does. They use that big capital raise not just for expansion, but to create this enormous liquid asset buffer that acts as a sort of safety net, a $34 million net, while they race to build out the core infrastructure.
And that infrastructure, as we saw with the margin growth, is already showing it can be really efficient. There's just a sprint to execution now. The big question is whether that revenue growth and those margins from the 26 megawatts can accelerate fast enough to close that market discount.
So something for you to consider moving forward is this. If management keeps pushing that operational efficiency, getting that margin consistently above the current 49% level, how much smaller does that Bitcoin treasury need to be before the underlying mining business can finally stand on its own and convince the market to price it above that hard floor? That margin progression is really the key factor defining their trajectory in 2026. If you enjoyed this analysis, make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.